Hello and welcome back to Let's Finally Watch It, where we watch the movies we never saw, even though most Americans have. I'm Lauren-Blair Donovan.
And I'm Clark Canez.
And this is Lady Grimaldi, for those of you watching it on our visual platforms, my little best friend of a dog. And today we are going to be talking about The Godfather. You've seen it? Right?
No.
This is one that we both haven't seen.
No.
For
is
some
that
reason,
a shocker?
A little bit, because for some reason
Oh.
I thought this was me being me, because I have not seen it than you have not seen it.
Yeah.
For some reason, because you seem knowledgeable about this too, so for some reason I thought that you saw it. But okay, so this is fun. This is another one that both of us have not seen.
Not seen. I know it's very Italian-y. That's what I know.
It's about the Italian mob, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. I hope. Yeah.
Watch us be so wrong and racist.
It's like, oh my god, they're Polish or whatever. But yeah, no, I haven't seen it, and I don't know. There's no reason why I haven't seen it necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't not want to watch it. I know it's an iconic movie.
Yes.
And again, I've seen a lot of like mafia movies though.
Which mafia movies have you seen?
So I've seen like Goodfellas, Casino. I really like Casino. I think that's a genuinely good movie. Those are the only ones I can name off the top of my head. There's probably have you seen any mafia movies?
I feel like I was on a band trip to Virginia from Pennsylvania, and we were forced to watch something that felt mafia adjacent. I'm trying to think, like, with the old school buses, they'd have like the TVs with the VCRs that hook up travel in style.
Yes.
I may have been Goodfellas or something like that. I think it was something else. I'm just not going to remember it because I was a 15-year-old girl and this was not my genre.
Right.
Let alone when I was being forced to watch it with a bunch of people I'm not really friends with, because not everyone in I played clarinet because I was super cool. Not everyone who played, like most of my best friends were not in band with me, so this was not a fun trip. But I don't think I ever went on another school trip again because I was like, this is stupid. I had no school spirit. That should not be surprising either. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was Goodfellas, maybe it was something else. The Godfather never looked interesting to me until about 5 years ago, because I think I understand that it's like culturally very important, and it seems like so many people from so many different walks of life love this movie. So I'm like, okay, I'm clearly missing out. I think I have seen clips, but it might have been Godfather 2. My mom, when she was still alive, was watching it with her boyfriend, and I kind of kept walking in and out, and I remember Diane Keaton walking around, and
Diane Keaton.
Yeah, she's in this.
Oh, I had zero idea.
Or maybe she's only in the sequel. I actually don't know. We will find out when we finally watch it.
I guess so.
But yeah, she's not just old Woody Allen in Father of the Bride movie. She's in Godfather royalty, unless I am really misremembering something, which you never know, but I don't think I'm messing that up because I'm a big Diane Keaton fan. So there's that. But yeah, I remember, because I was confused. I was like, is that Diane Keaton?
But you could have put Diane Keaton in every movie. Every movie that we've talked about, you thought Diane Keaton was in it.
I'm just obsessed with Diane Keaton, and I'm like, is that Diane Keaton in Avatar? She's one of the blue people.
Exactly, that's her right there in the back.
Billy Crystal. I thought that was Diane Keaton for a moment.
Exactly.
And When Harry Met Sally, she was definitely in The Wizard of Oz.
She had to have been.
She was the witch that the East, right?
Yes.
That was underneath.
Exactly, great foot acting.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think I do know some casting from it. I definitely know.
Who else is in it? Because I think I only know Diane Keaton.
I 100% know Marlon Brando is in The Godfather, the first one.
Okay, that makes sense. That tracks.
James Caan.
He just passed recently.
Yeah, he did. Which is R.I.P. R.I.P. Marlon Brando too. And Robert Duvall, I think, is in it as well.
I'm not placing his face for some reason. I know the name. I know I would know it if I saw him. But for some reason, I'm just gonna be honest and not cool. I'm not placing him.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a great actor. We'll see. Again, could be wrong. And that's the issue with like Godfather, is it's like, I think a lot of people say that the second one is very iconic
I've heard
as
that a
well.
lot, yes.
So
and the third is trash, apparently, which breaks our cold black hearts because we're both Sofia Coppola fans.
I love Sofia Coppola.
But
so much. I heard she,
yeah, she doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay. We'll get there when we get there with the sequels.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I mean, because it's her dad.
Yeah.
It, so.
It's nepotism at its finest.
Right, exactly.
But you were saying the Godfather, you were talking about, like, I think in culture, you were talking about how aware of the Godfather, how it's everywhere. I feel like I cut you off a little bit.
No.
Sofia Coppola joke.
No, I'm from the West Coast, so I don't know any, like...
Oh, because it's like New York based, I'm assuming.
I'm imagining it has to be.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with any Italian people. I mean,
I did. I'm from the Jersey border.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like I'm part Italian, but like way back. But like I don't know anything about like Italian culture, Italian food. Like the only Italians I really know is Mario and Chef Boyardee. I'm just
not Luigi.
Luigi? Oh, is he? No.
Yeah. They're brothers. Remember the Mario brothers? Mario brother.
That's where that comes from. And I feel like I didn't grow up. So for me, like all that mob stuff was very, very like
foreign. That was
foreign. Yeah, it was almost like the way people would probably on the East Coast would think that the Wild West is. Because I remember. Yeah, because I remember I had German exchange students in high school, and they came and to West Covina at least, and they thought it was going to be all cowboys.
In California, though, that's in modern times. That's pretty. I'm from the East Coast, and I didn't think that.
Yeah. Well, they're German, so.
Okay. Yeah, there's some cultural stuff, like barriers, I guess, with that. Yeah.
Like one of them had like a cowboy hat and everything to like fit in and stuff. It was hilarious.
I mean, I guess. Well, that is a real thing. I've definitely heard of people being like, oh, we see. There's like that scene in Borat where he's like, oh yeah, I'm in New York. I'm gonna go to like the Hollywood sign in like Texas, and it's all right here. I forget, I'm butchering what the exact quote was, but like. People forget that America is most of the North American continent. Yeah. Not like most, but it's like a good percentage. It's probably like 30%.
Yeah.
Right? Because Canada's pretty big, Mexico's pretty big, and then you have a bunch of like other countries that are super tiny in comparison. But like Mexico through Canada is the bulk of the continent, and America's right in the middle. There's so many different parts to America, and I think people do kind of blend American, like John Wayne type movie star stuff.
Yeah.
And like, oh, that doesn't exist in like Maryland. That doesn't exist in Boston.
Right.
Like,
And I think that's what like a movie like this kind of shows is that like, oh, we could show this culture in this movie. And I think so like I've in my head I've imagined I do know one scene and the only reason why I know it is so about this movie my mom saw it at a drive-in when she was maybe 9 or something. She was very young when she watched it.
I feel like that's not appropriate for children, and I don't know a lot about the movie.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Actually, she was traumatized by it. I think that's probably why I've never seen it.
So this is your Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, kind of.
Because my mom didn't like the Wizard of Oz, and we speculated that maybe she was afraid of it as a child.
Right. So. And this one was probably the same thing. I don't know why my grandparents were just like, oh. I remember they took my brother to go see Starship Troopers. I imagine you haven't seen that.
No, but I think I kind of get the gist.
Yeah, but there's also naked women in it and stuff. My grandparents would just let us watch any movie. I went to go see Saving Private Ryan when I was young and stuff, and that's pretty violent.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, so I know like a little bit about it, and I'm excited to watch it though.
I am too, because I think if I saw it at 20, I would be kicking and screaming. But I'm like an old, mature adult now, and I can see why I might appreciate it.
Sure.
So this is not Avatar for me.
Oh, no.
I'm not like, oh god, I gotta watch The Godfather. Like I was like open-minded, but low-key, like I know I'm gonna hate this. High-key, it's been recorded for posterity. Who are we kidding?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because I also, unlike The Wizard of Oz, really don't know what the plot is.
Yeah.
I just know it's about the mob.
Yeah.
And really, I don't know much else. I know more about the folklore, like whatever movie Sofia Coppola is actually in. Like I've seen that clip because I've seen it in like video essays about bad acting. Yeah. So,
again,
like,
sorry, Sophia.
Yeah,
seriously,
seriously, you're so influential to me. But it's okay. We all have fault lines. It's okay. No one has to be perfect. But like, and I feel like there's gonna be parts that we watch where I'm like, oh, I was aware of this scene, or I was aware this was a motif. But offhand, I'm kind of coming up super blank.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, oh, I don't actually know what I'm in for. I just feel like there's gonna be a lot of restaurants. Yeah. I feel like that's the clips I've seen. A lot of people eating in restaurants. We'll find out how well this ages when we've seen it. And obviously there'll be some violence and like tough guy shit. Yeah. Because why would there not be? Like, yeah.
We should eat some pasta when we watch it.
Oh my god, we could. Because I'm actually from, the Jersey border.
Yeah.
I'm not Italian at all. Not that I know about, at least. I haven't taken a 23andMe DNA test yet, but and I'm not even saying I'm an amazing cook, but I grew up most of the Italian restaurants in my town or the next town over, which was in Jersey. I was literally the last town before you hit Jersey. New Hope, Pennsylvania, shout out. Rumor had it that a lot of because there was like this one pizza joint that was really popular when I was a kid, but by the time I was a teenager, it was always empty every time we did takeout. And they would every year get this like elaborate mural painted. Like every year or two they would change this mural, and it was extensive.
Wow. And
it looked expensive and it was intricate, and yet it was never occupied, like the restaurant.
Wow.
So there was a lot of, that's one in particular that was, I don't know if it's true, but it was rumored to probably be owned by the mob. The owner was super nice, so I guess mobsters can maybe be nice or whatever. And there was a few others that kind of had that rumor too, like where people would whisper and be like, you know all the Italian, which I don't know if that was racist or factual. I actually really don't know, but
I hate saying that.
Some of it checked out. Like this one restaurant checks out a little bit to me.
For sure.
To say all the restaurants are owned by the mob, debatable.
Yeah.
Very debatable. Questionable.
I'm not going to say that. I also don't want to get poisoned.
Right.
Next time we
don't want to sleep with the fishes.
Exactly. I would rather not sleep with the fishes. I would rather sleep in my own bed. But
we all should. Yes.
Yeah. But we'll get to it. We'll see what we'll see. We'll finally watch it and see what we're missing. Maybe I'm legit excited to watch it.
I am too. I don't know if it's going to be my favorite movie or not because I literally don't know what it's about. But I have a way better premonition going into it. I don't think there's going to be any movie that's going to be worse than Avatar, where I'm going to be like rolling my eyes the entire time. Maybe Star Wars, only because I've had bad experiences with when I've tried to watch it, but I have the expert here to decode stuff, so maybe that's a lot more open for me to like appreciate, at least. Even if I don't like it, I can better understand the culture that is Star Wars.
Exactly.
I'm not that worried. Even if I don't love The Godfather, it'll be like, oh, okay, I've seen this now.
Yeah.
Here are my thoughts. Here's why I didn't like it, but I can appreciate, because it's a film classic.
Yeah. It's a classic.
Weird. So I don't think I will hate it, even if it's not my scene. So
yeah. Well, we'll see.
Let's finally watch it. Stay tuned, and in 5 seconds we'll be right back, having watched this at some point in the future, and it'll be awesome. So keep listening.
Keep listening. Bye. And we're back.
We have both seen The Godfather.
The Godfather. Sorry, I could do it. You can't do it because
I'm not Italian. I don't know of any Italian blood running through my veins. But you're like everything. You're like the small world after all, right, of humans. I feel like you're a little bit of everything.
I think it's good. Yeah, but don't do it. It's a horrible stereotype. Well, I mean that you want to start there? Just to kick it off. I mean, when we were watching it, I was like, this is like offensively like, I know I just did a weird accent right now, but like the thing is that James Caan isn't. He's
Jewish. He's buried in a Jewish cemetery that I've been to now.
Yeah,
before he died. But
and I don't know where he grew up or whatever, but I don't think he talks like that. But but anyways, it was almost offensively Italian. It was
aggressively Italian. I think that's how I'd put it, because it's we talked. Okay. If you've listened to our earliest podcasts, you know that we used to save up all the information and discuss it for the podcast, but about 4 or 5 in, we're that's not only just too excruciating for us, but we wanted to get some first pancakes out first. Yeah. We were realizing maybe we're being too wordy or meandering all over the place, and we're let's get some first drafts out before we give it to you guys. And we were talking a lot off camera, because we now watched this probably 2 weeks ago or something, but basically it's from 1972, so I don't think the stereotype was solidified. It was probably, they probably, especially since Coppola, I mean, he's Italian, so he's allowed to make a movie about, so 100%. But I think since The Godfather, it's been so parodied and done, and that's why it feels almost offensive, or at least aggressive, because the context of its time is kind of lost in 2022, where it feels like it's a cliche, but it's what started it all.
Yeah. I mean,
so it's not actually offensive. We know the difference, but it's a little bit of a brain twister to be watching when it's very, just every Italian stereotype that we've seen in Animaniacs, that we've seen in lesser movies, that we've seen Jersey Shore even.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. That's the modern,
Godfather.
Wow, oh no.
Snooki is the Godfather.
Yeah. Oh man, she could get stuff done, I think. But no, absolutely. I think you're 100% right about that. Because what we have in our heads is Italian. I mean, because it's a weird thing, because in 1972, I mean, Italian culture is probably pretty big. I'm from the West Coast, so we didn't have any sort of
East Coast, baby.
Yeah.
It was the rap wars. He'd be Pac and I'd be Biggie.
Yeah, exactly. And we would both be doomed, but I think that I think that it really is kind of. I mean, the parts of it. Because I liked it a little bit more than you did.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot.
I borderline didn't like it. I appreciated parts of it. I understand why it's an important film. I understand that it changed storytelling. But you know what it was? Because we've talked a little bit about, okay, they let all the scenes breathe, which usually I'm a fan of. But you know what I realized why I didn't like it? I didn't care about any of the characters.
Yeah.
I can deal with long scenes that breathe. I can deal with long movies. I can deal with slow storytelling where it's not even clear what the plot is. It's so subtle. I have to care about the characters.
Yeah.
I didn't care about one character in this.
Yeah.
I did not care. Maybe James Caan, because he seemed to be protective of his sister.
For sure. Yeah.
I don't think I cared about Michael. I didn't care about Marlon Brando. I didn't care about Diane Keaton. What was her name? Kay? Because, and I love Diane Keaton. But I just didn't care.
But you also didn't get enough Diane Keaton.
That's true. She was just a woman.
Yeah. And I would even say that about Michael. We'll talk about him maybe being the main character of it.
Yeah.
But even in that, him being the main character, he was in it a fair amount, but
he was in a third to half of it, but for a main character, that's not a lot.
That's what I was going to say, is you don't really get... because that is the one part that I did like, was his transformation from somebody who did not want
anything to do. He was
college
educated, military, all that stuff. He was supposed to do better.
Yeah, supposed to do better. And I think Marlon Brando's character Vito, his father, didn't want that for him. He didn't want him to. He wanted him to be a
little
senator.
About Vito. A little.
Yeah.
At times, I couldn't ever figure out how much I cared, but there were moments. Because, he's a really good... And everyone was a good actor. Everyone was a good actor. I'm not mad at the acting. I just... But you're right. We only got, a blurb of backstory on anyone.
Because even when we're introduced to Michael, he's already like out of the service and stuff like that, and I feel like I think I was talking about this before, but like I think it is like a different type of storytelling where it's the efficiency of the story isn't as as efficient as modern storytelling. Not to say, I think it's just different types of people, and, because when I was thinking about stuff that I like from this era, I'm thinking about like horror movies.
Okay.
I'm thinking about comedies. I rarely watch dramas from this era.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when we're, this drama was. There were loose ends that didn't get tied up. There were, certain things where you're like, wait, how is this person important? And that's another thing about this movie that we're talking about is all the actors looked samey.
And we're not saying Italians all look alike. And I can vouch for that being on the East Coast where all of my pizza places were owned by the mob. Like, I know Italian people, even though I'm not Italian. And they all look really different, just like any race or ethnicity or background does. But they literally cast people that were the same height, had a similar body of hair, except for like some of the older guys or, like the heavier set guys. Right. Like I turned to you probably no less than 3 times. And I'm like, who is that? Why do we care? What led up to this? Like I couldn't, and I didn't even recognize James Caan for the first.
Yeah, I know, so right?
Like, wait, who's James Caan in this? Like, you had to explain it to me. Like, and this was not mansplaining. I was asking for it. Like, because I was like, I know who Marlon Brando is, and Diane, Diane Keaton at first. Not that she was Italian, but like for a second. She looked so different to me at first that I was like, wait. That sounds like Diane Keaton. It didn't look like... My brain was confused, the entire time. And
I don't even think it was necessarily all just because of the way they looked. I think because they would talk about people... Okay, we just saw this character for like a second. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're going in on the exposition of who this person is.
And they all have very generic names, like Michael. Like everyone's named Michael. In life. Like, that's like, I have 500 Michaels in my family. And I'm exaggerating. But, like, there's so many Michaels, like, in life.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And, a lot of these, and especially since most of the characters are referred to by their last names, too.
And they all have the same freaking last name as well.
Yeah, or it's very similar sounding. And
then they drop the first name of one of the other families, and I'm like, well, who is that? Like,
yeah, which one was that?
Which family is that? It was a lot. I'm already bad at names to begin with, so... There was just, that was too confusing, and I'm usually very good at faces, but they all also kind of looked alike too, so
Well, it just makes it hard. It does make it hard, because I was legit confused a fair amount because of that as well, but I was like, okay, wait, what do we just see right now? And then it was interesting because those moments where it was very slow, I was able to process. Wait, who was that? Yeah, I think that actually helped me in a way. But even then, going back to it, if you don't care about them, it also you'll forget it. Yeah,
it was just okay. Are you surprised at our general apathy-ish towards the movie? Because when we filmed the preview, I don't even remember it. I should have watched it. But I think we were both like, yeah, this is a movie that like people like, and sure, we're gonna finally watch it. Great. Yeah. But what's interesting is we filmed the preview review like over 2 months ago at this point, and initially we're gonna watch The Godfather really only a week before we're releasing it. But for whatever the reason, because we've been watching some movies out of order, we just never got to it. And then we both started to identify, maybe we're not that excited to watch it. Like, I was excited to watch it for the most part. Not like, oh my God, putting out the fireworks excited to watch it. But like, I was game. But as it went on, I don't know if I was dreading it, but like you were kind of in the same boat. But then up until like the moment we started watching it, I was like, but we're gonna like it. It's a classic movie. People love this movie.
Let's talk about
I was sort of indifferent to it with a lean on I just don't care for it. I wouldn't use dislike. I just didn't care for it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you surprised at like that you're more apathetic versus like
I am to a certain extent.
Okay.
The only reason why I say not completely is because I think and I don't even know if I'm going to do this, but the second movie is famously known as being one of the best sequels, or possibly, I think
one of the better
case,
films, I think, of all time, even.
Yeah. And I think that with that, knowing the second part, I think when a lot of people think, because I'm trying to think about it as being like a Star Wars fan. If you watch the first Star Wars, I don't know if you would necessarily be into it.
I wasn't the first.
Exactly.
That's why I have to watch it again, because I don't understand what the fuss is about.
Right. So when I think about Star Wars, I think about at least the first trilogy.
Right.
Not
from the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with The Godfather, I think the second one may put more in context
it's
or whatever.
A sequel that's also part prequel and sequel, right? Like it flashes back, like Marlon Brando's. Spoiler alert, he dies. But like he's in both, right? Because like they flash back.
So, yeah.
I think that's what I read at one point, where they have flashbacks, but then it's also present post his death too.
And Robert De Niro is in that one. He plays the younger version. Yeah. So when it flashes, I think kind of like fills in.
Yeah. So like maybe we still haven't figured out what we're gonna do about sequels. Are we gonna do it here? Are we eventually gonna do a Patreon, and that's where the sequels are gonna live? Like we've been kind of not sure what direction we're taking the sequels in. But maybe by the cut to however many months down the road, we do finally see Godfather 2, and we're like, oh, we've changed our mind. We have a rebuttal to our own responses. I'm open for that. Like I said, I didn't hate it. It wasn't Avatar, but similar to Avatar, though, all the characters felt a little, maybe not as one note, but very similar to the other. There wasn't a lot of nuance between the different characters, and I think that's part of why I was just like, I don't care.
But also, it's just drama. Like,
yeah, and that's what Avatar was. It was aggro. This was just like drama, blood, drama, blood. Like it.
I will say, I rarely like just straight dramas. For me, I like a dark comedy.
Yeah.
You know,
same. Or a dramedy.
A dramedy, exactly, yeah. And this was straight up, because I was talking about, I love Goodfellas, which is, you know, probably about, I think 15, 20 years later after this movie. I like Casino, which is, you know, a good, you know,
similar, right?
It's very similar to, and that one's long too. Casino's very long, but there's like these moments of like, oh, like these are regular human. Like none of these people, I feel were like lived in the real world. Yeah, exactly. Like they're caricatures of. Well,
and that's the thing, because like, okay, I'm one of the few people that have not seen The Sopranos, and I do believe I'm going to be changing that, because I do want to see it. I do. It's not something I'm kicking and screaming with. It's just something I've missed, and it's intimidating to start a new television show sometimes. But like, I think that show did well across every walk of life, because I think they were mobsters, just like us. Like, you know, where it was like the human touch, if you will. Otherwise, and that's what helped usher in the golden age of television. So I think I kind of thought, even though I haven't seen The Sopranos, I think I kind of thought Godfather was like going to be closer to why people like that, but it was just a different audience, because it was different story building, different. And I didn't know it took place in the freaking 40s. Can we talk about that? That took maybe both of us for like 20 minutes.
And then we saw
when the cars. When I saw the cars, I was like, wait a second. But look, here's the thing, guys. I'm a fashion girl. You can't always tell. Sometimes you can if you're on our YouTube. But like, I love vintage fashion. I used to be a fashion blogger. I got out before it was called influencing. That's an important distinction for me to make, because I am no influencer. That is gross. Anyway, but I love fashion. I love style. I love just vintage everything, really. And I am super stuck on the 70s. I love to dress like I died at prom in the 70s or at a discotheque. Like that is what I wear on a normal Tuesday half the time. And I was so thrown because the wedding looked like my parents' wedding in the 70s.
Yeah, it really did.
And then once we figured out, because of the cars, you know, that it was like the 40s and you looked it up and confirmed it, I was like, but those dresses don't, it was kind of there was a few throughout the movie, especially as it went on, like when he was reunited with Diane Keaton and stuff. I was like, okay, that's a late 40s look. I get it. Because like I know other decades too, like from the 30s through the 80s, I'd say is kind of my heyday. And I just I'm so confused by the costume designing because it didn't.
Right. I felt you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that goes to another problem in the film, like the passage of time.
Very confusing.
I was almost going to look it up right now to see what the length of, and I think it is 15. It's like 15 years, I think. So,
really?
I mean, I
believe you, but like,
I don't even know.
Because I know towards the end. I think when they were in Vegas, I said something, I don't remember what, and then you were like, oh, I think they're in the 50s now. And I think you were right, but like, when Michael was abroad, you know, hiding out and all that jazz, and getting married and getting his new wife blown up, and you know, the works as you do.
R.I.P. Apollonia.
We'll circle back to that. But it was so confusing because at one point it felt like he'd been there for kind of a while. And then there was like another point where he still had that's what it was. Thank you. I can't remember what it was. Was still messed up, like brand spanking new scar
from when he got beat up from that cop.
And it's like, and then he was married with the scar. I'm like, did he just dump Kay, go abroad, hide out, and then 5 days later get married?
Yeah.
I know it was like the 40s, but still, like, geez.
Yeah. Or did he have like not being able to clot, or like
did he just keep picking at his scab and it kept like, I don't know, weird. It was like that was super confusing.
And I think even when we were watching it, you're like, wow, juxtaposition from this and The Shining, like you're saying. I was like, you're like, I could really use a card telling me how much.
Yes, and I was low-key making fun of the Shining title cards. Because at a certain point, it just was like Monday, Wednesday. Like, where are we? But it was at least in the beginning, like some passage of time. This is now the winter. This is now a week later after they've been settled or whatever. Yeah, they could have had some. 1948. That would have been great.
Yeah,
Jesus,
just like this is the top tune of night. Just sprinkle that in, because I was having a hard time following as well. So,
for a movie that's considered so great, and the director's so great, and the storytelling's so great, I have questions. Yeah, like I just don't get it. Even trying to take into consideration with where it's coming from, it just feels like lazy storytelling. Yeah, there I said it.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, I have the same problem, but it's not. You know, it's not even that there is because this movie relies on a lot of people lying as well. That's like another thing too.
That's a good point.
So like the confusion about the time, the confusion about where people are standing, there's just so much confusion that, I mean, like the time thing definitely adds to that, because then you're, like I was saying, during those blank moments, I'm like doing mental math. Yeah. What?
I was just going to say math. Yeah. It's not an enjoyable watching experience. I think that's why I was like, if I can't follow something, I get kind of bored.
Right, yeah.
I was bored. We had to watch it in two sittings.
Yeah. That's another thing, is the length. I think that was the third thing that I was going to say is, the length.
Well, granted, we found it on a service that had commercials, so that didn't help. But it was like 3.5 hours with commercials. It's just under 3 without. And I think we started watching at like 4 or 4:30. We took a break to make dinner, and like we chatted at one point, but eventually it was like 9 o'clock and we still had an hour to go. Yeah. And I looked at him and I'm like, I gotta go home. I need to stay on a schedule. We will be here till midnight at this rate because, I'll have to take the dog out and like, we're going to talk about it afterwards. Like, we just need to do this in 2 sittings. This is not going to...
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that there's just... I think it's also just the fact that, like, there's... Storytelling is just so different now. It really is. And I think that's where I kind of give it some credit.
Sure.
Because I know that...
You can't gaslight people from the past into doing things the way we do things now.
Yeah.
Especially when they helped the art form evolve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I will say, I feel like this movie had to crawl so, other movies later on could run in a certain way.
100%. That's why I'm not totally mad at it. But
it was beautiful. It was beautiful locations and everything.
Beautiful costumes, even if I have questions about the decade they were intending to be in. But like, well done.
Yeah. And I think that is kind of interesting because I think when they made it at the time, they were trying to like make it for the audiences of 1972 and because like we're watching it, I mean it is literally like
50 years later.
50 years later. And then also on top of that they're trying to show a time
from the decades past. Yeah.
So I always think that that's interesting when movies do that. Because I always talk about like the 50s version or of the 80s version of the 50s.
Yeah.
Like it's such a big part of the 80s for
the Wonder Years.
It makes sense.
Or maybe that was 60s.
It does make sense though. But in watching this, I do think like people in 1972 maybe didn't have a concept of the gangster. It was like long gone at that point.
Yeah, because it must have been in like 40s films or something.
For
like
sure,
film noir, like or whatever. But
and I think gangster movies probably kind of died out like in the 60s. And
maybe even before that, because I feel like movies just got more censored by the end of the 30s with the Hays Code, which wasn't about mobsters, but I think it was a domino effect about like not scandalizing audiences. And then by the 70s, we're like, let's scandalize audience. Like that became kind of like the pushback. So I think, I think that's a valid point. And it was immersive in the sense of like, it was like going to a country that you don't know the language and that's how you're going to learn it. That's kind of how it felt. But like, I was like, which one's Michael? Like, I still like, it wasn't enjoyable. Learning's hard. Learning's exhausting. And
then also, once you learn them, they're dead.
I know.
They're dead in the next scene.
I didn't see James Caan die. This is the thing. There's been a couple movies that I've kind of called out some major plot points. I didn't know where any of this was going. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty sure Marlon Brando was going to die. I don't know if that was spoiled for me, but I didn't know. And at a certain point, I figured Michael would live because it felt like they were just setting him up, to be the next generation. Yeah. But like, I didn't see James Caan dying. I didn't even see The Undertaker being brought back to do a funeral.
Right.
I thought, and actually, really, that was low key one of my favorite.
No, that was
his whole plot was actually maybe one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah. You start off with it, and then you kind of see that pay off.
Because you forget about it by the time it does pay off. It's just to make him look presentable for his mother. I did love that, and I know that's a real thing personally. I've had a friend die that he had to look presentable for the mother. Yeah. So the mother also wasn't horrified, beyond being horrified at, her son dying. Yeah, so that's a real thing. That was a human touch, that I appreciated. But that's the thing, too, with The Undertaker. I thought we were watching a very different movie in the intro. I don't know if we talked about this, but like, I think we did. But yeah, I thought it was going to be, I thought we were getting upfront the justification of being a mobster, where it's like a crooked world, justice is never perfect, police can be bad, the law isn't always on your side, even if it's trying to be. Like, it's just, we live in an imperfect world, so sometimes you gotta take stuff into your own hands. Yeah. And I don't always think, I actually almost never think violence is the answer to that, but at least I can wrap my head around the reasoning. But then they never really talked much about that again. It was more about vengeance. So I was like, oh, this is not a movie about justice. or superheroes or bad guys that are secretly good. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been more on board if they stuck with that theme, I think.
I do think that you're getting to a point where, I mean, even talking about Michael's arc, we don't necessarily see him be like a super good guy. It's like his transformation, to being the Godfather by the end.
It's kind of underwhelming to me.
Right, because like I again love Al Pacino and stuff like that. And I thought
great performance,
beautifully acted all around. I just didn't. His transformation. It's so weird because I know Al Pacino now. Al Pacino, I feel like 20 years. He's kind of like a Nicolas Cage type, where it's kind of like just pay him to just go off the rails and stuff.
Right.
So to see such a subdued performance from him, and I get it, and I will say that was probably my favorite part, was his journey into that, kind of a journey into the dark side, where events keep happening. Sonny gets killed. Vito is his life was had an attempt on it, and they're so you see where it's like, I don't want to do this, but here I go. And then like further and further, I do like that. But as far as like even the way it was written, I'm not going to say it's the performance, but it was just like, he didn't have a save the cat moment, basically. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
it was almost anticlimactic the way he was like, yeah, I'm gonna kill the cops. Like, it wasn't like, it was just like, in his mind, it was Captain Obvious that he was gonna do it. But as an audience member, it was like, but we've spent the last hour learning that you don't do that.
You're right.
And now you're doing it, which, okay, cool, loyalty to the family, that's a relatable thing, I guess. But like, he didn't change. He was a Freddie Prinze Jr. of the Mafia. He was not that different of a guy, because in my opinion, it's interesting to me when they paint someone out to be the good guy. It's genderless, actually. It could be either gender, when they're really flat or like kind of like withholding. Like when he was with Kay at the wedding, he was very, like in the beginning, he was not the most affectionate, not the most warm. So to me, it was like, oh, okay, sure, he'll kill people in cold blood, I guess.
But also, we have to understand he was a veteran too.
That's
so like,
it's just a whole other layer of who knows what's going. It's like a river in winter, like what's going on. But that also just, I almost wish they made him a college boy.
100%, yes.
Because then he would have been more wide-eyed and maybe not seen stuff in World War II or whatever. He
probably saw legit way worse stuff.
He was probably traumatized, but we weren't addressing that in the 40s or the 70s. So it's like this, again, through a modern lens, it's like, there's something going on here. But he just wasn't dislikable. He didn't make my skin crawl like the way Jack Nicholson in The Shining did from the jump. But like, he didn't, I wasn't like, oh wow, I'm rooting for him. What a great dude. I wish he was my boyfriend or husband. No, I didn't care at all.
Because, going back to it, like you're saying, you really liked Vito Corleone, Corleone. I think that's the way they say it. I always say Corleone. I don't know how. I thought it was Corleone. I thought it was Corleone, but the way that they're saying it in the movie was
maybe that's just their accent, their Sicilian accent that I'm not allowed to get.
But like even his character, he had some moments of levity, even
and humanity and like heartbreak. Like I loved his performance when Sonny died.
And he was like, and he was saying to himself, he's like, this pain hurts so much. I just don't want this to happen anymore. I don't care about vengeance. I don't care about anything.
That's profound. That's a character arc change.
Yeah, right.
That's everything.
Exactly. Because, when Michael takes over, he takes over. The biggest downfall of Vito was that his morals were too high to be in that business in a lot of ways. Because he was
gangster at the heart of it all.
Because he really didn't want narcotics. The biggest thing was that he didn't want narcotics. That was the biggest.
Which shows a lot of foresight.
Exactly.
Like a lot. Like shows a layered, nuanced, long game versus like short-term payoff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, like they were probably doing the most savory things and the organized crime.
Sure.
But he was like, this will ruin people's lives. I don't want to do this.
Right.
And I don't think we should be a part of this, and that's where he becomes unpopular with all the other people. But it's like, wow, okay, that's kind of, with Michael, I don't, like, even with him taking, he's a little bit more heartless, I think, than Vito.
I was going to say that. No, he doesn't. I was going to make a Wizard of Oz reference where he's like, is it the Tin Man that wants a fucking heart? Or is that the line?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I'm just going to plug Avatar, Wizard of Oz. If you haven't seen her, stuff, go watch it. I'm just going to try to be like, what's the word? Swift and just trying to like plug all our other shows.
Right.
But like because Marlon Brando did have the heart, and because Michael was just very one note. He was a low-key aloof, low-key cold, not dislikable, but not like, oh, this guy's the best. Because he gets back from the military. He is dating this girl, Kay. He's going to do vengeance for his family. Oh, he's in Italy. Now he's married to this girl because she's pretty. Yeah. Not much else.
I know.
Which
he doesn't even speak Italian.
It's a different time. And I'm already like the femme. I don't want to use the word Nazi, but we're going to do it anyway. But I'm always pointing out the female gaze and lack thereof in these movies, and then she dies. There's no reaction to that, not really. And then he goes back to the States. Stalks Kay after not talking to her, after being married to someone else. I'm not saying he can't move on of his life, especially if it was a few years, which we're not even clear about. But like, to me, that's always a red flag when that's like codependency, going from one relationship to another. I don't care if you've been through trauma or not, like get stuff addressed. And then Kay is so not fleshed out, and you see Diane Keaton trying to humanize this woman that's just on paper. Like, she's not real. I mean, maybe she kind of is. I think women had less of a say, and they couldn't always be as dominant or alpha, so fair enough. But she's reluctant to get back in the car with him, but she does it.
Yeah.
And then they're married with a kid, and he's now kind of this colder than his father, mob boss.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what a guy. What a guy. Like, wow, Kay is so lucky. Like, cue the chiffons. One fine day, he finally came back. No, like, this is not this is not the couple I'm rooting for. This is and especially considering now he's a widow. Does she even know this? Like, it's just so much unresolved trauma, guys. And his character arc was virtually non-existent, besides he changed his mind about the family business.
Yeah, and he got pulled. Getting pulled into it, which, I feel like it is interesting, because I don't think that he would have. I'm wondering what his life would have been like. I mean, I guess maybe he would have been a senator and stuff, but I think it's kind of weird, because it's almost like it was his true calling in a way.
Yeah.
More, I mean, I think it was also Sonny's. Fredo's,
That was the adopted
so Fredo was the one who was in, he was the one who was in Las Vegas. So Fredo was the one who...
Is he a brother? Or was he like...
He was a brother, yeah.
Of Michael?
Of Michael, yeah.
There's another... See, this is what I mean. I don't know any of these
for sure. I think it's played by that actor who was in 5 Best Picture movies.
Me about him.
Yeah, okay. He was in Dog Day Afternoon. He was in like 5 movies.
I don't remember that guy in Vegas. I remember him in some New York scenes. I don't remember him. Like, I don't know who these people are. It's annoying.
He had a pretty minor, as far as all the other brothers. So, because Michael was the youngest brother, I think the daughter was, so it's like those hierarchy or whatever.
Sure.
But, he took it from Fredo, because Fredo was not above board. He went against the family with Mo.
Remember that part.
With Mo Green and
Las Vegas. I remember that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like, if he was a little softer in the beginning, that call to arms, knowing that he has to be ruthless,
would have been so effective. Softer.
Yeah. Exactly. But I mean, that's sometimes just the way
But it's also kind of low-key a commentary on, like, what it takes to be powerful, which I don't necessarily subscribe to. I don't think you have to be cold to be powerful, but if he was trying to be a senator, are senators that much better than organized crime people?
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
depends on which lens you're looking at it through. Depends on which people we're talking about. But I mean, there's some ruthlessness there, so it's almost like his calling. When you said that, I was like, oh, if his calling was to be in power, doesn't matter what industry.
Right.
In a strange way.
And there was a really powerful exchange with him and Kay, with Michael and Kay, where you're going to send people to kill and die and stuff like that. And Michael, and if you were a senator, you wouldn't have to do any of that. And he was like, you don't know what it's obviously
I think I turned to you, I was like, that's not true.
Well, what do you mean?
Oh, well like, no, whoever was saying that, I'm forgetting the exact exchange, but like, no, I'm saying if you are in government, you are sending people to die.
Exactly,
Whoever was saying that's different.
Right.
I was
exactly.
Like, I like started echoing.
No, absolutely. And, there's not a... I mean, we could get into that all day. But
it's also election day that we're filming, so we could really be rallied up about it. But we won't, because by the time
I'm not even looking, personally, like, we've been together for a while today, and I haven't even looked at my phone really because of that. So
the polls aren't even closed yet. Yeah, they're close to it,
but anywho, like, there's long story short, vary the characters, please. Just vary the characters, and I was saying this, I think, when we were watching it. There are certain things that I really did like. I really liked some of the montages that were happening.
Especially the ones in California. Really, I mean, I like too, but I think you really liked. Yeah. Because
there's, like I was saying, like, this movie I really think needed to crawl before other movies could run. Because there were several, especially even the last montage, the bunch of murders and stuff.
Oh, the juxtaposed with the baptism. I like that scene. Yeah,
I like that. That was a good cap, very good cap, and that was definitely very enjoyable. But I think if we would have watched it in one go, I think it might have been like, I'm already exhausted.
I know. Yeah, we did watch that like in our second sitting. So
this is
with fresh eyes.
Like, if it was on VHS, I think it was probably 2 tapes then. But But anyways, just watching that, it's like Titanic or whatever.
But was that on 2 cassettes?
It was on 2 cassettes, yeah. So with the baptism, like, that whole montage felt like it could have been from a Wes Anderson movie, in which
Paul Thomas
Anderson, 100%. Absolutely.
All the Andersons.
Yeah. Trying to think of other.
I was like, wait, am I mixing up their names? Am I just repeating what you said? I'm like, no, those are both their names.
True.
I found them right.
Not related, but yeah.
That we know of. We should find them on ancestry.com.
I bet you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a great example as to why this film is so revered, because it did, you've been putting it best this whole time, like, crawled so others could walk and stuff. And montages, I'm a very big fan of. Like, in my screenwriting, I'm always writing them in, because I think they also give a lot of exposition without it being clunky. Right. It's a great way to world build. It's a great way to show characters doing things and not just saying things. Yeah. And they're usually, like, snappy enough where people's attentions are really on it, if they're just a bunch of little, like, 10, 20-second scenes in the span of 3 minutes, And
especially if you see it being in a, you get a lot of information. Because I think if it was drawn out like that montage, that last one, it was like, Green got shot while he was getting a massage or whatever. But this guy. It was like, okay, let's just all in. It's a poker term. But, there wasn't any poker in this, but, like, all in. We're gonna go all in. All the deaths. We're gonna just do it. Like, you guys get it. Yeah. And so I like it for that. But yeah, this again, slow storytelling. It just doesn't necessarily work now. And
not without character development or something else that makes the storytelling slow burn worth it.
I will also say, I don't think that this necessarily got the best reviews, by the way.
Really?
When it initially was released. Now I'm really thinking that it really does depend on the second one, because like now it's obviously
I'm getting more curious about the second one as we speak, but I'm not in a rush to go watch it like later today. Like,
especially, I wonder how long it is. I wonder if it's
18 hours.
No, I hope not. But if it's shorter, I mean, if it's like a Swift 2, like I'm trying to think of a like a director now who would have directed this better. It's hard for me to really like think
about. The direction, it's the writing. I don't think I liked.
Yeah.
You know, because the acting was good, and I can appreciate some of the directing choices, but I just don't know if there's enough on paper for any of the actors to, with the permission, of course, with the director, to make distinguished different choices.
What else did Francis Ford Coppola do? I have
no idea. I know more about his daughter's body of work, Sophia, than I do, which is probably sacrilegious, but I am an unabashedly big fan. Virgin Suicides changed a lot for me. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely. I love Lost in Translation as well, and Marie Antoinette. I love those movies.
I liked Marie Antoinette before everybody else did. Were you a hipster about this? Because that was not well reviewed. That was not well reviewed. It was not well received, but I thought it was cool as hell that they had a Marie Antoinette movie with New Order and Gang of Four as the soundtrack and these really bright colors, because I love experimental cinema. So I understand that she's his daughter. I get where the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but I'm more of a Sophia girl than a Francis girl. I don't know what to tell you. What'd you find out?
So he did, Again, I don't really know these movies. So it's Patton is one of, I think I've seen Patton.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I think I liked it. The Conversation.
Ever heard of?
I think that won awards. Apocalypse Now.
A lot of movies that win awards are not remembered a decade later. I'm just going to put that out there.
He did Peggy Sue Got Married. I actually really like that movie.
I haven't seen that one. I've heard of it though.
Oh, never mind. Okay, this one's one of my favorites. Is Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Is that the one from the 90s?
The 1992 one, yes.
I haven't seen that since I was like young.
Yeah, I really liked that one.
Who's in that one again?
So that's like Keanu Reeves, Gary Oldman.
I knew there was like a dark-haired guy that was very 90s in it.
Yeah,
figure out who it was. Okay.
Which is weird because he was so young in that. People were so pissed. Because I think he played Jonathan Harker, which is one of my favorite characters in literature.
Okay.
And I remember I had a drama teacher that hated Keanu Reeves. But anyways, yeah, like I think I will say he was probably trying to stay true to the source material, you know?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think he was a bad director. I just don't think that there was like a lot to pick from off the page. As an actor, like I don't know what I would do with the character of Kay. I can only speak to that because there's not a lot of female characters in this, but like I don't know how I could have made her more interesting, and I wouldn't expect to if Diane Keaton can't, because she's a phenomenal actress.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorites. She's one of my favorites. Yeah. And so, and then you look at all the men, and it's like they're all just kind of aggro in a different way of like the Avatar people, but like still very like bloodthirsty in a way.
And you didn't know what you were getting.
And you didn't know what made them human and what made them like I was shocked when Sonny died. Like I didn't see that coming. Yeah. That was definitely one of the more shocked moments I've had in any of our screenings for the podcast. But did I care? Not really, because I don't know who he was.
Yeah,
I just the coolest thing about him to me was he played Will Ferrell's dad in Elf, and I kept thinking about that.
I liked him in Misery.
I haven't seen that one either. I need to see that one too.
Yeah, he was great in that. Also, he was in Bottle Rocket, which is one of my favorite.
I need to see that one too. I'm surprised I haven't seen that one. But Yeah, so it's like, but that's not about Sonny being why I liked him.
Exactly.
You know, so it was just
like
kind of
you
like,
latched on,
yeah, and he's a good actor. He has a great screen presence, so I enjoyed him whenever he was on film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I had to have a crush on one of them, I'd have a crush on him.
Yeah.
I think like he was the most my type, but like I don't know who he was, which is why I'm not like being like Arsenio Hall and Coming to America.
Yeah,
See, I'm plugging another one. But like, no, I had a reaction to him. I was like, he is a very handsome man, and I've never noticed this. I thought James Caan was very handsome in his youth. I had no idea, but I didn't care enough about the character to me be like, I wish I was in the 70s and got to meet him.
Right. I totally get that. I think that actually, I'm completely forgetting that Robert Duvall is in this movie. I know you don't know him very well, but he was the one who played the adopted son, and he was lawyer conciliary of the family, and I really did like him because he was the most like, okay, fine. Actually, and he would get like in people's faces. He's like, hey, we shouldn't do this. Like he was very, I actually really liked him because he was like very like level-headed. Even though he was in this hugely dangerous world, he wasn't afraid to like speak his mind about things, and he wasn't in the family. I mean, just because by blood or whatever,
right?
But, you know, but he had enough of a status within the family that he was able to...
He had more than one note to me. He was once I figured out who he was, which took most of the movie. But by the time he was telling Vito that his son had died, that was really well performed, in my opinion, because it was also... It wasn't aggro, it wasn't tough guy, it was very, like, human, I need to break to you some bad news. I've been in that position, not telling someone that their child died, but, like, you know, when a friend dies and you have to tell a friend that's, like, so excited you're calling them, and they're like, hi, how are you? And I'm like...
Oh, God.
I'm like,
Okay.
I have to tell you something. And they're like, okay, cool, what's up? I'm like, no, I have really bad news. You know, like, it's, like, different than that scene went, but, like, that's such a... terrible feeling when you have information that's going to ruin someone's day, you know, and he played it, I thought, very grounded. Very grounded. So he had more dimensions, in my opinion. So he did a good job with what was on the page.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's about all I have on the movie. Yeah,
I'm trying to think. I forgot to bring my iPad, but I didn't take a lot of notes. I think we covered everything. I just like the Undertaker part the best. The most shocked by Sonny's death. Didn't care for Michael.
Yeah.
I wish I liked Kay more.
Right.
I saw Vito dying in front of his grandfather, or in front of his grandson. Sorry, that was the one plot. I wasn't annoying, and I was like, he's gonna die, but I. Yeah.
Oh no! Yeah, for sure.
I kept that one to myself because we both hadn't seen it, but I was the whole time. I'm like, this has happened so many times in media sense. There's a tender moment, grandparent to grandchild, they're dying dead in that scene or in the next. So I was like,
absolutely,
here we go, Grim Reaper is circling this yard. It's happening, and it did.
That was the one thing I think I had known about. About that movie, that and the horse. The horse. Okay, the horse. I'm gonna go through. Yeah, I'll do. I think so. It was the horse head. The hit when he put the gun in the bath the
family owned place. Yeah.
And then the other one was the line. Take the gun, but leave the cannoli. Or leave the gun, but take the. Or it was, I don't know which way it went, but I probably know that. I think that might have been from... That actually might have been in Rushmore, Wes Anderson movie. So those were the definite things that I knew. But again, like, there's a lot of things... Oh, and I knew Sonny was going to die.
You knew about the toll part specifically, didn't you?
Yes, because I was talking to my mom about this movie literally 2 days ago. Because I was saying that we finally watched it. And she
like our podcast.
Like the podcast, yeah.
Sorry, I'm in just plug mode tonight.
Ooh. We need to get you onto a different show. That's how
I know.
Works.
Something about rainy days on election days. I'm like, let's plug ourselves.
But anyways, like, she was saying, so from the get-go, she used to ride horses. She loved horses and stuff. But that scene with the horse head, she was traumatized from that. Of course. Because she watched that when she was about 9, she said.
Yeah.
And so that, and then Sonny Corleone, when he got shot up, that's all she remembers even from the movie.
Of
and
course.
She's like, I'll never watch that movie again. Like,
right.
Ever in her life, because that was pretty traumatic. That was one of the weird things about it, I think, altogether, is like it would be these really slow moments and all of a sudden just woo.
I think that was part of why I was like, because it was just not even. It was just like, what's happening? But you know what's strange though? Hearing you rattle off your list of stuff that you like knew about from culture, considering how iconic this movie is and how revered it is, I don't think one part was familiar. There was not one Wizard of Oz moment where I was like, oh, I know this happens. I know it goes from sepia tone to color. I had no idea what the hell was happening.
Yeah.
There was like essences that I recognized, and I better understood the pigeons from Animaniacs, you know? Like little like weird covert context clues, I guess, maybe everywhere, but there wasn't one plot point or line or character where I was like,
what about I'm gonna give him an offer he can't refuse.
Okay, fine, that. But I think that's also so embedded in culture that like I feel like other people, even though Godfather started it, I might have really just heard it elsewhere.
Yeah,
so
most likely.
Yeah, I mean, but no, you're right. I think
we'll
go with that. We'll go with that. But yeah,
because even The Shining, you were like, oh. Yeah.
Twins in a hotel in Colorado and Jack Nicholson's crazy and but that and Wizard of Oz I would say are the two that I was the most aware of going in that I hadn't seen, but I was considering how this makes every top film list ever. I have no idea, and even if we're talking about Godfather 2, I don't think I know what's in that either.
I only know that, what I explained earlier, that's all I know. That's really all I know. I don't know much more. The third one, I know Sophia Coppola ruins it.
That actress, sorry. I love you. I'm in your fan club, but that's okay.
It's okay. I think if she would have stayed acting, she wouldn't have had all these wonderful movies. So.
Exactly. So...
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta try things before you. I can't do gymnastics, so
exactly.
I'm not a gymnast. Oh well, it's fine.
Yeah, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses.
Exactly. So, this is somewhere in the middle with a lean on the bottom half, probably for me.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if I see 2, I'll change my mind, or maybe if I somehow watch this again, I can appreciate it now that I understand what's happening, but I don't want to watch it again. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. This is not going to be one of my weird trauma comfort movies or TV shows that I watch over and over again, which is like a real numbing technique to just escape the world that people with both ADHD and CPTSD do. And I have the latter. No, this is not going to be one of those movies. I'm just going to like pop in the background and just to feel comforted because I know what's happening.
Yeah. And I think I didn't, but like a similar director from this era that I really like, or he's different, but his name is Terrence Malick, and his movies are very slow. I could put those on in the background.
What are some of his movies?
He did Tree of Life most recently, or I think he has a different one. He has another movie, but Thin Red Line. But he started in the 70s, but he still kind of keeps that like really slow storytelling. But it's so much more interesting because like even those slow moments, you can feel it feels textural and stuff.
I love that. Yeah, anything with texture, because that's why I love Boogie Nights so much.
Yeah,
there's so much character development in it.
Yeah,
there's almost not a plot, and even Paul Thomas Anderson says at the end of the movie, like spoiler if you haven't seen Boogie Nights, but like the characters aren't really in a different place than they were when they started.
Right,
they've had some arcs, they've had some changes, but they're not.
But
they're sort of the same person, and that's sometimes life. People sort of say the same sometimes to some extent, and so it's like the plot to that is just kind of interesting to me. There's almost not a plot. There is, but there's, it's not like super like linear plot. It's just kind of like a world that you get dropped into. And some of those scenes are really long, but there's not a minute of it that I'm bored, that I'm confused, that I'm
exactly,
you know, and because it's very clear who everyone is from the jump.
Yeah.
And they all look different. Yeah. They all look different.
Yeah. Oh, this guy who's wearing a suit. They all wear a suit. Yeah.
Exactly.
But anyways, yeah. But it was interesting.
I mean, it's
glad I watched it.
But I think I'm just going to start offending people now because I've already talked to a few people where it's like, what movies haven't you seen? And even today I was having a conversation and I listed them off. They're like, oh my God, I love The Godfather. That's like one of my favorites. I've seen it for forever. And I'm like, I'm just going to start talking about something else because I don't want to be like, well, I didn't like it.
Okay. This will be maybe a hot take, and I'm probably going to get dragged even worse than you. But I think this is one of those movies where it's like you say you really like it, because if you say that you don't...
You don't understand cinema.
You don't... Yeah, exactly.
You're trash.
And
you're just watching Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. You're just watching... You're not even watching movies. Yeah. You're watching reality TV if you don't like The Godfather.
Right. And maybe I am. Maybe that is. But I do think it kind of is...
I agree, though. I do think that there's a lot of people that like it's like when people say that they like classical music. I'm like, do you? Or do you just want to sound smart? Or sophisticated? Some people do. Most people don't, though.
It's true.
You know? Like, so, I don't know.
I'm trying to think of like a food. Wait, what's a food that like people are like, oh, I'm not a big oyster fan, but like people are like, oh, I love oyster. And I'm like, oh, I think... I'm just kidding.
I'm trying to think if there is a food equivalent, but like, I think, I don't know, or like craft beers. Some people just like Bud. I don't know.
This is so good.
Yeah.
Like some of those IPAs or whatever.
I know.
Not a big fan.
And I'm not even fun. I don't even drink anymore because alcohol gives me headaches and I just quit alcohol because they're not fun. But it's not fun to me. But I lived in Colorado. I understand craft beers, and I don't like an IPA. Mm-hmm. Give me an amber or a red ale.
You go to bars now, it's all IPA. It is insane.
Yeah,
I can't believe it. Or it's like at least 60% IPAs.
Yeah,
get out of here with them.
Even I know that, even though it's been like a really long time since I've drank. But yeah, I feel like I hear of IPAs so much more. So IPAs and The Godfather, same thing. Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, I think you got it. But anyways, that's what we thought. Did you guys have any other...
Tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah.
We'll love it. We'll love it. It'll be engaging comments and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you.
Yeah, we'll have a little convo about it. And, you know, But yeah, I'm with you as far as the movies that I haven't seen. This is...
It wasn't awful. It wasn't Avatar bad.
I would rather watch Can't Hardly Wait, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, actually.
It's a more fun movie.
Yeah. And shorter.
Yeah.
Definitely not Avatar. I don't want to talk about it.
All right. Well, next week, though, we're going to be watching American Pie, which we've already seen and recorded that.
Yes,
so that's already ready to go. Like I said, Godfather just got pushed to the lowest end of the priority list for some reason. But... So stay tuned for that episode because there's some hot takes on that and not even the obvious takes. I actually low-key defend it. So low-key, not high-key. Let's not get carried away. But I have some points about it. And I'm Lauren-Blair Donovan. You can find me on social media at Blairosaurus Rex.
And I'm Clark Canez. You can find me on Other Clarksy is my handle on all the social
Who's the other Clark C that you're the other two I've never had?
I think I was going to just do Clark C, and then there was somebody else, so I was just like...
How dare him?
I know. I bet you their name's not even real... Well, my name's not even really Clark. Anyways, shut up. But yeah, but anyways, yeah, I don't know who that person is. There could only be one. It's like...
Well, I like it because it's mysterious. It's like, you know.
Yeah, I'm the other one. Yeah. But yeah, you can find me on there.
And of course, subscribe, comment, follow, find us on the TikTok, all the things. And we will catch you guys next week.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Bye.
Bye.